Humans will never win, she saw. Otherwise, Commander Zara Vel stood on the bridge of the Corvani warship, watching the small blue planet through the massive viewport. Her silver skin gleamed under the artificial lights, and her forearms moved gracefully. Across the control panels, the War Council had been clear about their mission. Earth would fall within 7 cycles, and humanity would join the long list of conquered species. The Corvani Empire had swept across the galaxy for 3,000 years. No species had ever resisted them for more than a few battles. Yet something about these humans intrigued Zara. She had studied their history, their wars, their strange customs. Most species fought for resources or territory. Humans seemed to fight for ideas, concepts that made no logical sense to her military mind. Admiral Keth approached her, his massive form casting a shadow across the deck. His race, the Brutari, were known for their physical strength and tactical brilliance. They had crushed 17 civilizations before joining the Empire as allies. "We begin the assault tomorrow," he rumbled in his deep voice. "These humans will surrender after we destroy their major cities. They always do when faced with superior firepower." Zara nodded, but her mind wandered to the intercepted human communications she had been analyzing. Their leaders spoke of freedom, democracy, sacrifice for future generations. The words meant little to most Corvani, but they stirred something unexpected in her. The first wave of attacks began at dawn. Earth time, Zara watched from orbit as Corvani ships descended upon the major population centers: New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing. The humans had primitive weapons compared to their plasma cannons and energy shields. This should have been over quickly. But something strange happened. Instead of surrendering, the humans fought harder. When their military bases were destroyed, civilian populations took up arms. When their governments fell, local leaders emerged from nowhere. When their weapons were depleted, they used whatever they could find: metal pipes, kitchen knives, even their bare hands. Zara found herself studying one particular battle zone, a small town called Liberty Falls, where a group of humans had barricaded themselves in an old factory. The tactical computers showed it was hopeless. The humans had no strategic value, no important resources, no military significance. Yet they continued to resist. She focused her sensors on the human defenders. A woman named Lisa directed their desperate defense. She was young, perhaps 30, Earth years, with brown hair tied back and dirt covering her face. She moved between the barricades, encouraging others, treating wounded, checking ammunition. "Why do you not surrender?" Zara whispered to herself. Through intercepted radio transmissions, she listened to their conversations. "We cannot let them take our home," Lisa told her followers. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who cannot fight. For our children who deserve to grow up free." The words puzzled Zara. Freedom was not a tactical advantage. Children were simply the next generation of workers and soldiers. Yet these humans spoke of such things as if they held actual power. The siege continued. For days, the Corvani forces should have overwhelmed the factory in hours. But the humans had turned the building into a maze of traps and defensive positions. Every corridor, every room had been prepared for battle. They used the very structure of their world against the invaders. Admiral Keth grew frustrated. "We should simply vaporize the entire area and be done with it." "No," Zara replied. "We study them first. Understanding our enemies makes us stronger." She began monitoring other resistance cells across the planet. The pattern repeated everywhere. Humans who should have logically surrendered instead fought with increasing determination. They shared resources with strangers. They risked their lives for people they had never met. They refused to abandon the wounded even when retreat was the only tactical option. In one city, she watched an elderly man named Frank stay behind to help evacuate a hospital. Though he could barely walk himself, he carried children to safety while Corvani forces closed in around them. He died protecting people he did not know. In another location, a teenager called Amy organized the defense of a school. She had no military training, no experience with warfare, yet she managed to hold off trained Corvani soldiers for 3 days using nothing but clever tactics and fierce determination. Each story added to the growing confusion in Zara's mind. These humans displayed behavior that defied all military logic. They sacrificed themselves for abstract concepts. They fought impossible odds for people they would never see again. They chose death over submission, not from pride or honor, but from something deeper. The breakthrough came during the 4th week of the invasion. Zara was analyzing the defense of liberty, falls when she noticed something remarkable. The humans were not just fighting for their own survival. They had organized supply lines to help other resistance groups. They shared intelligence, weapons, ammunition with communities hundreds of miles away. Lisa had convinced her people to send half their remaining food to a group of survivors in the next town, despite their own desperate situation. When questioned by her followers, she simply said, "We are all in this together. What hurts them hurts us all." For the first time in her military career, Zara felt something she could not identify. It was not fear or anger or excitement. It was something entirely new. A warmth that spread through her chest as she watched these illogical, brave creatures fight for each other. She began to understand that human strength did not come from their weapons or their tactics. It came from their connections to each other. Each human was not fighting alone, but as part of something larger. They drew power from their bonds, from their shared hopes, from their willingness to sacrifice for others. The realization struck her like a plasma bolt. The Corvani Empire conquered through division. They isolated populations, destroyed leadership, created chaos and despair. But humans seemed to grow stronger when faced with such tactics. They formed new bonds, created new leaders, found hope in the darkest moments. Admiral Keth noticed her distraction. "You spend too much time studying these primitives, Commander. They will break like all the others." But Zara was no longer certain. The resistance was not weakening after a month of siege, it was spreading. Growing more humans joined the fight every day, drawn not by orders from above, but by the example of their neighbors. Watched Lisa again, now commanding a network of resistance cells across 3 states. The young woman had never attended military academy, had never studied grand strategy, yet she coordinated complex operations with instinctive skill. Her weapon was not technology, but inspiration. "We fight not because we can win," Lisa told her followers in a broadcast that reached millions. "We fight because it is right, because future generations deserve better, because someone must stand up and say, no." The words hit Zara with unexpected force. She had never fought for anything but orders, duty, the glory of the Empire. She had never considered that there might be reasons beyond victory to engage in battle. That night she made a decision that would change everything. She accessed the secure communications array and sent a message to Earth, to Lisa specifically, though she knew the transmission would be intercepted by human authorities. "I am Commander Zara Vel of the Corvani 3rd Fleet. I have watched your people fight for 32 days. I have seen courage that defies all logic, sacrifice that serves no tactical purpose, bonds that grow stronger under attack. I do not understand your species, but I have learned something from observing you. You fight not just with weapons, but with hope, and hope cannot be conquered by superior firepower." The message sent ripples through both fleets. Human resistance groups celebrated that they had reached even their enemies with their message of defiance. Corvani officers wondered if their commander had lost her mind. Admiral Keth confronted her immediately. "This is treason, Commander. You sympathize with the enemy." "No," Zara replied calmly. "I study the enemy, and I have learned why they cannot be defeated." She turned to face the assembled bridge crew, her forearms gesturing toward Earth. "These humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not fight for territory or resources. They fight for each other, for ideas, for the future of people they will never meet. When we destroy their cities, they build new ones. When we eliminate their leaders, new ones emerge. When we break their bodies, their spirits grow stronger. They are not individuals, but parts of a greater whole. And that whole cannot be destroyed by conventional warfare." Admiral Keth raised his weapon. But before he could fire, Zara continued, "Look at the casualty reports. Look at the time required to take each position. Look at the resources we have expended. We came here to conquer a primitive world. In 7 days it has been 35, and we control less than half their major cities. If we continue this war, it will drag on for years, decades. We will win eventually through sheer numbers. But at what cost? How many ships will we lose? How many soldiers? How many resources that could be used to expand the empire elsewhere? The practical argument reached the admiral in ways that philosophy could not. He lowered his weapon and studied the tactical displays. The math was undeniable. Earth was becoming a drain on imperial resources. Zara pressed her advantage. I propose we offer terms. Not surrender, but coexistence. These humans have shown abilities that could benefit the empire. Their capacity for sacrifice. Their ability to fight as a unified whole. Their talent for inspiring others. Admiral Keth considered this. The Emperor values strength. These humans have shown strength. The negotiations took weeks.